Mishnah 6. Each line in Mishnah 6 is a gem. So we will share the screen for a second here. And this is continuing in Hillel's statements. And he told us, V'lo chol hamarbe v'schora machkim. And here it's translated as those who are involved excessively in business will not become a scholar. That's a translation. The word hamarbe means to increase, to do a lot of. So definitely talking about someone who's doing excessive in business, not just regular business. So of course, it's important for someone to make a living, so you got to do business. This is when you're doing too much. But the wording, the translation, v'lo chol hamarbe. So it's not all that do it, or that do it too much, depending on how you want to translate, will also depend on how we explain it. So we'll start with Rashi's comment, and Rashi says that someone who is involved excessively in business is likely not going to lead to Torah. And one of the caveats here also, and that's not specifically Rashi, but when I say below chol hamarbe, means not everyone. This is a general rule. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule. Most rules have an exception. This law doesn't mean that every single person who is doing this, but generally speaking, someone who is going to be excessively involved in business is not going to become a Torah scholar. That's how Rashi does it. He quotes a verse. In fact, the Bartanura quotes a similar verse, different part of it of that section. Rashi quotes the section that says Lo vashamayim he, that it's not in the heavens, but the next line is really the one that says Velova me'eva layamhi, and the Torah is not across the sea. It's a verse in the book of Devarim, Parshas Nitzavim, and the commentaries say that you're not going to find Torah says really wisdom of Torah in people who merchants and businessmen who travel across the sea. People are traveling all the time. They're not going to have time to devote to their studies. Is the concept, and therefore people who are excessive in business also they're not going to have time to devote it because they're putting all that time into the business. And the question is, going back to something we had learned earlier, what's the main and what's the secondary? Is the main thing the business, or is the main thing the study? And it comes of, are you learning as your main thing, or are you doing it as well, if I find a few minutes, I'll do that. Is your business the means or the end? Is the business the means? I have to make a living, and therefore I'm going to work as much as I need to, or is it the goal? In which case, I'm going to do that all the time. And if I find a few minutes something I enjoy, I'll do a little learning. So which is it? And therefore, it's telling you if you're making your business excessive, that's the main thing, and your Torah study is secondary, and it's not the important thing. It's not a time factor. It's an importance thing. Then that person is not likely to become a scholar. Rashi brings out another idea, which is this is not specifically have to only be talking about Torah. It could be anything. That if you're a person, if all you know is business and that's all you do, you're not a well-rounded person. If you have to have other interests and be interested in the rest of the world as well. There are many things that are in the world, whether it be science, technology, whether it could be history, it could be philosophy, etc. There are a lot of different things in the world. It could be culture. If all you do is 24/6, not 24/7, right? 24/6, you are concentrating on business and only business, you are not likely to be a well-rounded person. And therefore, a person has to have other interests as well and be involved in other aspects of life. And we know that in many relationships, of course, that a person who is concentrating only on their business has a tendency, and I'm not saying everyone does that, but it could be neglecting their family in many ways, and that also becomes an issue. The Tosfos Yom Tov also emphasizes again that it specifically talks about the word excessive, kol hamarbe. It doesn't say anyone who's involved in business, because we've learned in Pirkei Avos also that if you don't work, it's also a negative. We can't have someone who's not also engaged in making a living, and therefore it can't be that it's meaning anyone who works. It means anyone who's doing excessively. Rabbi Lau actually points out an interesting idea. He says, he quotes a story from a Gemara in Tainus, which I actually recently did with my grandson as we're studying for his bar mitzvah. He's going to be making a siyum. So we got a lot of stories in this Talmud of Tainus that we've been coming across. Anyway, the Talmud tells us a story of Rabbi Yochanan and Ilfa, two different sages, and they were they were sages. They were very big scholars, and they went into business because they were poor, so they decided to go into business and make some money. And they gave up their main learning. They weren't spending all their time learning. And to tell the story that they were near some wall or something out where, and Rabbi Yochanan hears these angels talking. Let's knock this wall down over these two guys because look what they did. They gave up this world. They gave up the world to come. They gave up all their study of Torah for this world, for making a few dollars. And the other angel said, no, no, let's not do that because one of these people is going to become a leader and his time has not yet come. So we better spare them. So Rabbi Yochanan somehow overheard this conversation, but Ilfa did not. Rabbi Yochanan decided, you know what? That's a message for me. I'm going to go back. I'm going to give up my business and I'm going to go back to study Torah all the time. Ilfa, he was a great sage, but he did not go back and he stayed in the business. And then the Gemara tells us that Rabbi Yochanan became the leader of the generation. Ilfa was a reasonable scholar. He's even quoted in the Talmud numerous times, but he never became that leader. He didn't reach that pinnacle that Rabbi Yochanan did because he was busy with other stuff. So again, the concept is, yes, you can. It's good, but you're not going to achieve that highest level if you're spending all your time as your main pursuit in the business thing. Another important point that Irving Bunin points out is, when it comes to business, there's no guarantee of success, right? So we know that your success does not come from necessarily what you put in, it besides what Hashem decides is going to make it, right? We know a lot of people work very hard, are very smart, go into some type of endeavor which seems to be making a lot of sense, and for some reason it's not successful. Whereas other people who knows, all of a sudden they just hit it lucky, they're in the right place at the right time and they make a fortune, right? So your success doesn't, just because someone becomes wealthy, someone is successful in business, does not necessarily mean that that person is brilliant and wise, etc. It could be you just got lucky. And sometimes it could be your parents made a living and you just inherited it, right? So it doesn't mean that someone who's in business is necessarily machkim, is necessarily wise. Another idea that the Maharal points out is that this is talking about people, when it talks about business, is that a lot of there's the retail, where you're just buying and selling. You're not doing anything. You're not making something happen. Whereas opposed to someone who's in a business where they're adding value to the product, where they're being creative. So this is talking about to someone who's not being creative, someone who's just all they're doing is just you give it to me, I sell it to him, and there's no brains involved necessarily. That's you're not going to become a scholar. You're not going to become wise from that because it doesn't really. It's not making your juices flow. And finally, Rabbi Twersky adds that obviously a person needs enough to live on securely, but there's a point in time where a person has to say, you know what, I have more than I need. I don't need to continue to work at the same level I did when I was whatever, 20s, 30s, 40s. Now, well, maybe even earlier if you're lucky, but I don't need to do that anymore because I have more than enough to live a comfortable life for myself, my family, etc. And therefore, they should now go and spend their time in more important pursuits. And if the business aspect of it becomes the end in itself, that's where it becomes a problem. And that's what the Mishnah is referring to, is where the business becomes the end in itself, as opposed to the means in order to achieve the end, which of course is to be able to be a person who is following in the ways of Hashem and is following the ways of the Torah and is making themselves into a better person. We will hold it here. Have a great day, everyone.